Now, I'm also talking about how your skills are what you are hired based on as a remote worker. You need a skill that is valuable. You need something that has value in the marketplace. And you also need to specialize with those skills. Those because you would earn based on your skills. And if as a remote worker, when companies want to hire you, they hire those that are skilled. They don't hire based on age. They don't hire based on country where you're from. Most of them are not prejudiced. They don't care about the country where you're from. Now, there are platforms such as Coursera, EDX, where you can learn these skills. And about people who have been able to take action, we'll talk more about them later. About students, as I said, from those who have been able to teach last year, who have taken action and they've been able to earn for themselves. They've been able to remove themselves from the unemployment number, from the unemployment figure with these skills. And these platforms such as Coursera, EDX, and so on, these are platforms where you can learn these skills for free. Hello. Please, can the host mute the mics? Thank you very much. Now, these are platforms that you can learn these skills for free. This is what's going on. Okay, thank you. Now, I've had people who have been able to leverage this platform, learn skills. Now, you need to understand that remote work is not by your age, it's not by your geographical location, it's by your digital skills. Now, that's why I'm really hammering on this. And you can learn as much skills as you want, and you can, research on skills that are valuable in the marketplace and leverage them, learn them without. There are also organizations, part of them you listen to during the panel session that have been able to create opportunities, avenues where you can learn different skills for yourself, which I hope you wait around to listen to them. Now, there are platforms where you can continue to leverage, because when you have skills, then you can get to these platforms and leverage those skills, convert those skills to income for yourself, and build your remote work career that way. We talked about Upwork, which is one of the biggest platform. Then there's Fiverr, there's People Per Hour, TopTal, AngelList, we work remotely, FlexJobs, and so on. These are platforms. You can go on them, sign up. Most of them are free. Virtually all of them are free, except for FlexJob. FlexJob is the only one that is not free there. Everything else there, you can start on everything else there for free, and you can leverage your skills and be able to earn for yourself. Now, I talked about how Upwork is the one of the ones on this platform, on the different platforms that share reports. Upwork was able to share a particular report on their platform and that says about $2.3 billion was earned by remote workers on their platform last year. That means in 2020 alone, they were able to pay out $2.3 billion to remote workers on their platform. Now, this is just from Upwork alone. Another report said in the USA, another report said in the USA, remote workers, that's freelancers, remote workers contributed $1.2 trillion to the US economy. Now, you should see the impact that freelancing, or you should see the impact that remote work is contributing, as is one of the, people say one of the future of work. So you can check out these platforms and see how you can, leverage them. Now, how do you transition to remote work? For those who don't know what remote work is, for those who are just listening for the first time, remember I said age is just a number, and it's just about the skills, it's about your digital skills. And you can start part-time, you can start full-time. So how do you transition? You learn what remote work is, you learn the different platforms which I talked about, you learn about them, you learn about the different platforms, you can leverage those skills, then you can start transitioning. You can start your journey straight off. The barrier of entry, there's no roadblock blocking your barrier of entry. And I like to talk about testimonial of a 20-year-old programmer. This was way back. This was in 2020. This 20-year-old programmer was earning about $3,000. Compared in Nigerian naira, that's about 1.5 million naira every month, averagely. I have different stories about different testimonials of people who have started a remote work career and been able to. Some of them, I think a lady shared a story with me last week. She was talking about how she was able to make a normal 9 to 5 salary. She was able to make it in 3 days via remote work. So This is telling you the opportunities and that is abound for you if you take advantage. First of all, you need a skill. That's one of the things you need. In building your career, you need a skill. You need a resume or a portfolio, because most times anybody that wants to hire you want to see what you can do, want to see what you can offer. And then always deliver quality. Always deliver quality, because when you're able to deliver quality, you get more. So as a remote worker, when you deliver quality, you build a reputation for yourself, and that way you'll be able to get more opportunities, get more jobs, get more full-time jobs, and on like that. I've had a student. I have a student who was able to, a Nigerian youth who was able to get a full-time job with a company in Switzerland. And this guy, started his remote work career he's 20 years old also, He started his remote work career in December, and between the space of December to April, was able to get a full-time job, remote work, working from Port Harcourt with a company in Switzerland. That's what is possible. I've had different stories. I have one of my best students in Ile-Ife working for companies in the USA, all the way from Ile-Ife, and is able to do well for himself. So that's what remote work can do for you. Now, what are the opportunities of remote work? Some of the opportunities of the remote work industry: less commute stress. Now, for those who stay in Lagos, we know what commuting can be. We know what trafficking can be, what traffic can be, and the amount of stress commuting can, take its toll on us. So one of the opportunities of remote work is that is out of the equation. There's no commuting, so you have less commute stress. Then location independence. I gave you the example of the guy who was working for a company in Switzerland from Ile-Ife. I gave you the story of the guy who was working from a company for different clients in the USA from Ile-Ife, a company in Switzerland from Port Harcourt. Even me, I was able to work remotely with different companies in the USA, all the way from Ile-Ife, Ogun State, Lagos. So it does not, no matter where I am, that's what the location independence is about. No matter where I am, I'm able to relate with my clients. So I can be in Lagos, I can be in Ile-Ife, I can be in Ogun State. Then you have more time to spend with your family. So since you're not going to work, you're able to spend more time with your family now. So that's one of the benefits of remote work. Then another benefit is the opportunity to earn in Forex. Now we know the state of the currency in the country. Imagine being able to do. Now, one of the things I tend to tell my people, one of the beauty of working remotely is the reward to work ratio. That the same work, the example I gave of the lady who was able to do the same work she does in a 9 to 5 in 1 month, and she was able to get that same reward in 3 days. So that's one of the opportunity of remote work. You're able to earn in Forex. Now, challenges of remote work: everything that has advantage has its own disadvantage. When you're working remotely, unplugging after work can be a very, can be a challenge, because since you're at home, there's no, to separate the work time from the home time. Ideally, I need to leave my house by 8. I need to get to work by 9. By 5, I've left the office. I'm back home by 6. I'm with my family. But remote work is always around the clock. A boss can send you a message by 11 p.m. and you're trying to, so that's one of the challenges. Now, loneliness can be, a challenge since you are working from home. You're not collaborating, you're not communicating with people, you're not, so loneliness is also one factor, because it's remote workers that, shared some of their biggest struggles, which I'm talking about here now. Now, there can be distractions at home, yes, because your child, while you're speaking with a client, your child can open your door, so because there's people have been able to, remote workers, some of them have been able to create an office for themselves in their home, but not every remote workers have been able to do that. Then staying motivated, because there's a difference between when your boss is on the same floor with you and you're at home, your boss is only sending you a message. So these are some of the challenges from the state of remote work report. So so everything that has advantage has its own disadvantage. Now, what do you need to do? Because let me just round up and tell you what are the things you need to do. You need to learn a skill, that's a digital skill, update your old ones if you have. But some people say, oh, I have this skill before, I didn't bother doing it. So you need to update them. I shared platforms where you can update those skills. You can learn a new skill. You can just read about the different skills. I talked about how one of the platforms shared how there are over 10,000 skills on their platform. Now, it gives you the opportunity to select and pick anyone. You can pick them by the one that has demand, pick them that the one that pays much. If you like money the way I like money, So you can just align that with what you also like doing, you know, align your passion, what is in demand, and what gives you economic value. That's, you know, where the three of them meet. So then you pick a platform. There are different platforms you can leverage, learn everything you can about the platform, then start your journey as a remote worker. So thank you very much. It's been nice sharing how you can build your remote work career. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Benga, for that wonderful presentation. And it is quite eye-opening that we have vast opportunity out there in terms of remote work. I'm sure a lot of the participants are now aware of the possibilities of even earning in foreign currency. Now that we have I think the last time I checked, the naira to dollar rate, it was about 480 naira per dollar. So imagine doing a work of just even minimum of $10 to $20. That is something for a young graduate who just graduated from school. So thank you so much. And so we'll be moving straight to the panel session. The panel session is just going to take 1 hour, and we have our 3 panelists waiting for the session. The moderator for today is our own Maria Glover. She's the Pioneer Executive Secretary of Knowledge Exchange Center. She was my former boss, and whatever you see us doing today is the things that we have learned from her, and we are continuing the good work that she started. So she's here to support us, and she has always been doing that. She's going to be moderating the session. She's currently the lead project, the project lead in Impact Investor Foundation. She's going to be moderating the session for the next 1 hour. So Maria, I don't know if you can hear me. You can take it over from here. So we will have each of the panelists have their 5 minutes introduction before we start the Q&A session. Hello, Maria, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay, so you can take it up from here.
Thank you very much, Aloko. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second panel session of the KEC Career Workshop 4.0. And the topic, very interesting, building a remote career. And I want to really thank Benga Adebiyi for giving us very deep insights. I particularly didn't know the potential of remote working and the contribution that it has made to the American economy. I just want to highlight something, maybe somebody somewhere missed it, that the remote work contributed $1.2 trillion to the US economy. And this platform he mentioned, Upwork, paid out $2.3 billion in earnings to remote workers. This is a whole industry. And I think the future of work has changed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Hence, the career conference theme is the rise of remote work. What are the opportunities and what are the challenges? You will agree with me that the COVID-19 pandemic has been by far the most consequential health and socioeconomic impact, affecting every sector, exposing a weak and fragile economy. And that has invariably changed the way we work, and the way we work will change forever. Many of us have been working from home since March last year and have found it exceedingly exciting for some, and also with its challenges, as Benga has told us here today. So this session will be addressing how to successfully build a remote career as a young professional and as a fresh graduate. So the panelists will provide tips and insight on how you can find jobs and become very productive, especially when you are going to either opt to become a remote worker or combine that with your current job. So the panelists will be looking at some topics. How do you ace interviews virtually? In this age, I would presume that many of the interviews we'll be having will be virtually via Zoom. How do you excel at that? They'll be also giving perspective on freelancing and the gig economy that Benga spoke about. I have a few questions I'd like to drill a little bit down to do it further with Benga. And also, how do you maximize productivity while working remotely from home? Benga also talked about it, that one of the challenges the working from home will present is staying productive. So these are some of the perspectives that our very experienced and prolific speakers will be dealing with. So I'd like to call on them to introduce themselves and give a 5-minute opening on the topic, building a remote career. So please, first, introduce yourself and give us your thoughts around building a remote career. I always like to start with the ladies. I say ladies first. So please allow me to call on Ruth David to introduce herself and give us a 5-minute opening remark. Thank you. Ruth, over to you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Maria. All right. And of course, thank you so much for that insightful introduction, Benga. You have set the tone for today's session, and I hope that everyone who have joined in from everywhere across the country are able to take very key takeaways, that they will be able to implement tomorrow. My name is Ruth David. I work with West Africa Vocational Education, where I lead partnerships and projects within the advocacy space of the organization. Interestingly, I have been working, I think before it started to become remote working, our organization has, from inception adopted a flexible working work style to our working hours, which means that we do not necessarily have to come into the office every single day to get our work done. So of course, with the advent of COVID, it was very easy for us to pivot. I think Benga have done interesting work about talking about what remote working is about. I will, in the course of the conversation, share tips and tricks about how to stay motivated, which is what by the chat that Benga has shared earlier. It is one of the biggest challenges, for people who work remotely today. I will also be sharing, some tools or some tools that you can use to ensure that you stay productive while you're working remotely. So I am interested in having this conversation and look forward to giving my 2 cents to all the participants in today's session. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much, Ruth. And now I'd like to call on the next person, Bubemi Atimomo, who is the managing consultant, Business Tandem Limited. Bubemi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bubemi Atimomo, and I'm an HR consultant. I run Business in Tandem Limited. Acing job virtual interviews. So thanks a lot for the intros that Benga and Ruth had done. As we all know, COVID-19 brought about a sudden change into how we did a lot of things, especially in this side of Nigeria. But even before Nigeria, even before the impacts in Nigeria, we also had this kind of job changes gradually being introduced abroad. It's just that we've had to catch up very quickly because we didn't have a choice occasioned by the lockdown. So virtual interviews, as the name implies, is just simply an avenue whereby a potential employer gets an opportunity to meet with a potential employee or a candidate But instead of meeting in a physical space, they meet in a virtual environment. That simply means that they meet online, and they meet online simply by use of a video technology tool. So this could be either via Skype, Zoom, Google Meeting, GoToMeeting, or any of the other numerous video conferencing tools. Now, the reality of that is that the interviewer does not get the opportunity to meet with the interviewed in the same physical space, which presents a bit of a challenge both for the interviewer and the interviewee. Now, in this side of the world, for those of us, in Nigeria, you find, and in my experience, I found that a lot of clients, typically like to have their candidates come in to the office for the interview. I've told them a lot of times, I'm like, oh, but we could do the pre-interviews first online, and then when you shortlist, you can have them come into the office. But most of the time, they're like, no, we need to see them face to face. So that's the attitude that a lot of employers have on this side of town. However, abroad, even as far back as 4, 5, 6 years ago, a lot of people had already started moving into virtual interviews because they realized that it was cheaper for them, it saved time and it saved stress, both for them and for the candidates. Now, understanding that you will not be in the same location with the person who is interviewing you presents a lot of challenges for you now on the job seeker side. So how do you prepare for your virtual interview? One of the most important things is to make sure that your virtual environment is ready and prepared for the interview. So that means, for example, your technology tools, if you're using a phone, if you're using a laptop or an iPad, you have to make sure that those tools are well suited for video conferencing. That means that they must have good cameras, they must have microphones, they must have sound. I remember there was a time I had a laptop, and I didn't know that the microphone wasn't working. And I joined into an interview and I kept on saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Nobody could hear me because my microphone wasn't working. So I had to go and get a Bluetooth device. And then I realized that even with the Bluetooth device as well, you need to be sure that it connects properly with either your laptop or your phone or whatever device it is that you're using. And then you need to understand as well that because the person who is interviewing you will not be in the same physical space with you, they need to be able to get the most maximized experience. So for example, your ambient environment, can they see you? How is the lighting? Are you sitting against the light or with the light? Can they see you clearly, at least your upper body? And then when they look at you, what exactly are they looking at? How are you dressed? Even though it's a virtual interview, you still need to present yourself as though you would in a physical interview. So as much as possible, you err on the formal side and you dress properly. If you're a guy, you wear a suit with a tie. If you're a lady, you wear a proper skirt suit. Look very official. And then you make sure that, during the interview, you're very audible. You speak at a measured pace. They can hear you. You make sure as much as possible that you maintain eye contact. So if you have a panel of, say, about 4 or 5 people, and somebody asks you a question, you don't just devote all your attention to the person who's asked you a question. You try and rotate around the screen and speak to all the people in the session. One challenge that we always have, with virtual interviews is internet service. So you want to make sure that you've done a dry run before your interview. You make sure that your internet access is good. As much as possible, if you can get a backup as well. Make sure that you have enough data to be sufficient for your video calls, because video calls will take up more data than your normal average online search processes. And then because you're not in the same physical space, like I said as well, you want to make sure that the people who are interviewing you remember you for something. So as much as possible, try and make sure that your stories are told in a compelling way, that there's something that you share that sets you apart from everybody else that they will interview. So that when they're reviewing the process, they can easily remember you and say, oh yes, I remember that guy, the way he told the story or the way he said this experience or that. Now, it may not even be a story. It might be something about how you're composed or how you're dressed that remains memorable. So for a guy, I remember one of my first interviews, well, this was before virtual interviews. Because I realized that they were interviewing a lot of people and I wanted to be remembered, I wore a pocket square, and I made sure that, the pocket square matched my outfit so that at the very least, if they're trying to remember, oh, there's a guy who said something, somebody else would say, oh, the guy with the pocket square, yes, they'll remember that. So finally, remember as much as possible, even though you're not in the same physical space with the person who's interviewing you, you need to prepare as much as possible the same way you prepare for your physical interviews. So do your research about the company as much as possible. Make sure that you find points of congruence between yourself and the company, areas where your values align, areas where your skills align. Try to connect with the company. Try to establish your relevance with the company. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was thinking you're going to give us a brief introduction of yourself, who you are, and your overview about the remote work, building a remote work career. But that's fine. Thank you, because you have taken us to your own topic, ACing virtual. And I have a few questions for you, but not now. But just taking us back to the main topic, which is building a remote career, and going to Benga Adebi, who really gave very, very interesting insights. And just to ask him more question, a deep dive, how long have you been doing this remote work? And particularly, you mentioned that digital skills are any kind of skill that you need to use a computer, and it's so broad and it's so vast that any skills that you can do falls into that bucket. But what are the top 5 skills that as a young person, what should I be focusing on? Or framing this question in a different ways, what are the greatest demand or services that companies are looking out for? So as a young person, what should I focus on? So give us some top 5 skills.
Okay, so thank you very much for having me again. For the first question, I've been doing this for 6 years. For my part, I sent in my profile late, so they didn't get my profile. So that was not my profile, the one they used. I think they got it from the internet. So it was my own error. I sent in my profile late. Because it's in my profile. So I've been doing this for 6 years. I started 2015, April. I even know the date, April 14 to be precise, 2015. And I started training in 2015 too. So why did I start training? I started training because I struggled for 2 months on the platform, and because I was proactive, I was able to do things on my own. But at the same time, I realized if I'm struggling like this, if someone to say I've been very intelligent all my life and I had to struggle with this, so it means there'll be people who are going to be struggling with this. So I started training people since that time, even when I had not even earned much on the platform. I just trained people how to navigate. So that's the first question since 2015. That's 6 years now. Now for the second question. Skills that a young guy at least should have, or a young guy or girl should have. Skills in demand. Okay, first of all, writing. Writing is in demand. The quantity and quality of writing jobs is plenty. Writing looks saturated, meaning that, a lot of people are doing it, but it still has the highest demand of jobs. I had a Twitter space session 2 days ago, on Sunday, where I told them, I had to share with them that, see, writing alone has 75 subcategories. So writing alone. So as a young person writing, now, one of the subcategories of writing is copywriting, which is also another top skills in demand that a young guy should have. So copywriting and 74 other skills, or 74 other categories are under writing alone. So you have grant writing, research writing, white paper writing, you have resume writing, proposal writing, business plan writing, creative writing, article writing, web content writing. So it's a whole lot like that, technical writing. As in, there's a whole lot of subcategories under writing. So writing, one, then digital marketing, because people want to sell, people want to buy on the internet. So digital marketing is also another skill a young person can quickly, and these are skills, I'm mentioning skills that a young person can learn between 1 week to 2 weeks. You can learn these skills in 2 weeks and you can start earning with them. I've had people who learn them in 2-3 days and start earning, but I don't want to use them as the norm. But in 2 weeks, a young person can learn 2 weeks to 1 month. You can learn these skills and you can start earning. Then we have data science and analytics. Now, this one is more of a long-term skill. It takes a longer time to learn, but we're in the world of data. So data science, people need data, people need you to interpret data, so data science is also one skill in demand. Then coding, which is programming, software development skills. This is also a long-term skill to have. This one takes another long time to learn. But coding is one skill that is also in demand. Now, coding also, like writing, has plenty of categories because there are different programming languages, there are different front end, back end, and a whole lot of them that you can learn from. So it's also a top skill in demand. Now, then we can now talk about maybe graphic design, because graphic design is also another. Let me just round it up with that graphic design. Graphic design, where under graphic design, we can have product design, we can have UI, UX design, because companies want to interface with their consumers, and consumers is more like the first, the first contact a consumer will have with the company is through their product interface. And so that's where the UI, UX, product design, graphic design people. So those 5 skills are top of at least one of the top skills in demand. Now, let me quickly conclude with something. Now, those 5 skills are in demand does not mean every other skills are useless. I just mentioned the 5 skills in demand. Different organizations, different institutions will release different top 5 skills. Some will release top 5 skills that will be in the demand in the future. That does not mean if you have an accounting skills or if you have another skill, it does not mean, oh, my skill is useless. No, you can still go do well with those skills with your remote work career. But those are just 5 of the top skills. They're not even only the top skill, but the 5 of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gbenga. Just to go through them again, writing. I want to attest that, yes, writing, I do a lot of writing. And really, I look for people to help me write. So I really want to attest that that really is in demand, and you cannot have enough of that. Then digital marketing, data science and analytics, coding with many subcategories, graphic design. And I want to just ask you a question. In the 6 years you've been in this space, how has skills evolved from then to now in terms of demand? Which ones were top then? Which ones are currently being top? You just mentioned this 5. What do you see in the future, and how do we as young people position ourselves to take advantage of where the future of work is leading us to?
Okay, thank you very much. And that's a very, very important question. Now, to answer your question very well, to position yourself, one of the ways you can position yourself is position yourself in skills that won't be automated. Means skills that an app will not do in the future. You need to position yourself that way, because if not, you become redundant. If an app can do what you can do. Now, what an app can be as creative as human. The app will do the best a computer can do, but there will still be some human touch. A human will always be able to relate better with other humans. So that's where you need to get skills that are, that needs human, that have potential to not be as automated as, as fast as possible. So then what has happened now? Some skills of the future as, they've been increased. So we have, skills in the blockchain technology, data science, because of big data science and analytics, then software, software skills, meaning the coding skills have been because of IT, because of tech, they are in great demand. And the product design, the product development, UI, UX, are also in great demand. Now, as these skills are in great demand, even digital marketing, one reason is digital marketing says we want to sell, whether it's e-commerce, every company, even the tech companies want to sell, they need consumers. So that's where a digital marketer comes in. Because in the future, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, these companies will still need to sell. No matter the product, the fantastic product of the future they create, they need to sell. So that's where you can say, okay, now what can be changing is the trend in your industry. Maybe this tool is now the main tool in town for digital marketing. No, okay, let me just give an example now, just an example. Maybe it's no longer Facebook ads that is running, it's now TikTok ads that is running. So as a digital marketer, you are paying attention to your trends. So other than that, but you should know that 10 years from now, companies will still sell, companies will still buy, consumers will buy. Now, content, see, as writing looks, because writing can be big, writing can be small, because writing looks, is he the only, or is one of like, I've been writing since my secondary school days. I've been writing since, when you professionalize writing, because content, I wrote an article where I said the amount of content that is generated daily. In that my article, I think I remember that during my research, I realized that there are over 3.4 billion pages of web pages on the internet, and they all need content. There are on Amazon alone, there are millions of books and ebooks. Let's even use ebooks now. They all need content. So content is still in. Now there are apps now that they are creating for creating content. There are different AI apps now that can generate content. So I'm looking at that angle and say, okay, because they are just new apps, so but we know they will develop more in the future. But I'm looking at that. So how can you adjust to the trend, no matter the skill you have? No matter the skill you have, how can you adjust to the trend in your industry? So that's one way to go about it.
Thank you very much. So your eyes as a young person must be on the trends of your industry, meaning that you have to be very aware, very informed, and also to move with those times. Thank you very much. Still on the presentation you made, you highlighted some of the challenges of working from home, which invariably would affect the productivity of those who decide to work remotely or to choose working remotely as a career. Some of them you mentioned, which I think affects me as well and some of my colleagues, is unplugging after work. When do you tee off? When do you close? Because you have a home office and your home office is just close to your bedroom, or in your bedroom, you find yourself working till midnight. Sometimes the only person you speak to is yourself. So loneliness might be prevalent. And you're not in the usual office environment where you collaborate with people. How do you increase productivity? So this next question goes to Ruth. Ruth, I like the fact that you mentioned that we've had like a hybrid work model before the COVID-19 pandemic. You're able to work remotely and work from home. So pivoting into remote working wasn't really difficult for you and your team. But how have you been able to maximize productivity while working remotely? How do we as young people learn one or two things from you to stay productive, to stay efficient?
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you so much for that. And of course to Benga for rehashing some of the important points that is needed for this conversation. Now, I think when it comes to productivity in working remotely, I think one of the rule law is discipline. It is discipline, discipline, discipline. Discipline with your time, discipline with your space, discipline with your habits as well, right? And because for me, we have, like I said earlier, we have been, we had the hybrid version of working. So you can decide on your own to say, I'm going into the office to work, or I'm going to a workstation to work, or I just want to stay in my house to work. So for me, it depends on what I want to do, the task I want to achieve. For example, if I am looking for some level of inspiration for the kind of task that I want to do, I really prefer to go to a very interesting workstation. Let me not mention their names so it doesn't look like I'm advertising them. It's an interesting space that I like to just sit down and work because of what I see around me. And when I want to do something that needs my full attention, the best place for me to get that done is in my house, where I'm able to shut myself in a little corner like this, and then just bury myself into the work that I need to do. And of course, when I need to collaborate or ask questions as I go, I like to go into the office to get that done, because of course I have very smart colleagues who I can bounce off ideas with. However, with the advent of COVID, we have shut the office completely since last year, March. And none of us have, right now we sort of have opened the office, but till date people are finding it easier to work from home. Now, like I say, it is discipline with your time. One, you need to create a routine for yourself when it comes to being productive working virtually. You need to create a routine for yourself. So I wake up in the morning. Imagine that you are going to work, wake up in the morning, of course you freshen up, and then you jump on maybe a bus or however you want to, different mode of transportation that takes you to your workplace. You see that routine sort of helps you to know what to do next, right? But once you are working remotely, you almost feel like, oh, okay, what do I do with my time now? It's 8 a.m. What do I do with myself, right? You need to create a routine for yourself. Wake up in the morning, whatever you do for your morning rituals, and then find a spot, a working spot. It works. So don't just sit on your bed, or today you are sitting on your bed, tomorrow you are sitting on your couch, tomorrow you are sitting on your balcony. You need to have a spot that you work, because what happens with the brain is that your brain sort of connects that spot or that position to productivity, right? So once you assume a position, your body tells you that I am now in the mode of, I am in a productive mode. It's time to work. But if you lie down, or again, of course, there are no rule of thumb to this. It depends on what works for you, right? But I'm just saying in general, having a table and a chair to manage that is super, super important. Another thing is, of course, dressing for success. I call it dress for success, right? I know that a lot of the time people who do remote work like to work in their best suits and all that, right? But sometimes it puts you in a mode, like I say, it's a mental thing, right? It puts you in a mode for you to, sit upright, wear certain clothes that gives you certain confidence to start to get work done. Again, another thing is learning virtual etiquettes, right? For example, we are in a session right now. I think in the early days when this, Zoom collaborative tools we were starting to use these collaborative tools, you find out that people enter into this session without muting their mics, and it's like some tornado ran into a meeting and everybody, very loud backgrounds. But I think that right now people are getting more accustomed to the use of those tools. One, you always have to mute your mic and your video whenever you are on a session, right? And again, in case you forget, you can, do your setting in a way that is sort of, anytime you enter into a session, your mic and your video is automatically muted, because a lot of, mishaps have happened, especially with, people leaving their video on. Again, in the early days, I think it still does happen. A lot of funny things happen. You have to learn, virtual video etiquette and conferencing. I think that I would leave, my how to stay motivated for another. I think Maria asked me that, and also, of course, how to collaborate within teams to ensure that you are, getting the job done or being exceptionally productive on your role. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. I see a lot of mental programming being required here. Mm-hmm. Lots of discipline in creating routine, and finding a working spot. I really identify with that, because when I sit on my chair here, I know it's time to work. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways in which I also overcome this is by dressing for success and dressing like I'll go to work. And, in my interaction with colleagues and friends, this really has been helpful. And also learning virtual etiquette. I think all of this has to do with a lot of learning and relearning. Well, let me start with relearning and learning in this new space, which takes me to Bubemi Atimo, who is a learning and development expert. There's a lot of learning here that Ruth has, highlighted here. I'm not used to maybe managing my time effectively. I'm not a disciplined person. Now I'm finding myself wanting to work in a remote, space. How do I learn discipline? How do I unlearn bad habits? How do I establish routine? How do I learn what it takes to be effective?
Okay, so I'll piggyback off one of the last things that Ruth said, which was sort of about planning and building a schedule. So we can look at it in terms of sort of two perspectives. So if you're working for yourself, one, or if you're working for someone else. So if you're working for someone else, it's a whole lot easier because, irrespective of how you plan your schedule, you'd have to adapt it to someone else's schedule, and that sort of keeps you on your toes because, most likely somebody else is going to be checking on you to make sure that you do your work or you submit stuff when you say you submit them. But if you work for yourself, it places you on a more strict requirement in that sense. So if you're not so disciplined, you need to immediately learn how to be disciplined. So one of the most important things that I would recommend is, in terms of the work that you do, think about it in terms of deliverables and what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to submit them. So if you have an outline of when your work is supposed to be due, then you can use that to backtrack and build your schedule. So you know that at the end of today, for example, I have 1, 2, 3 things that I'm supposed to have completed. Rather than thinking, okay, these are the things I'm going to do today, you focus on the things that you're supposed to complete per time. So if you know that your working hours that you've set for yourself is, say, 9 to 5, if you choose to play from 9 to 12, then you know that you're going to force yourself to complete those tasks between 12 and 5. So it serves you better to face your work earlier on. So if you can finish by say 2 or 3, then you can go and play between 3 and 5. So it's more about learning how to be disciplined. Now, if someone is paying you to achieve a certain result, then that forces you to be disciplined, because you know that if you don't achieve that result by that certain time, then that person will not pay you. And if that person has paid you in advance, then it's going to affect your credibility with the person, because you will not be able to meet the deadline that you had promised that you would meet. So it's more about inspiring yourself, challenging yourself to be able to meet the deadlines that you set for yourself or are set for you.
Thank you very much for that question. So you need to focus on what you need to do, kind of building your routine around your deliverable is what I really caught, and I see that as being very, very helpful, especially for those who are thinking, seriously considering working for themselves, like what Benga has introduced during his keynote delivery, the potential of working for yourself, working remotely, and getting yourself out of unemployment. That discipline needs to be there, from what Ruth had said, and also building your routine around your deliverables so you are effective all the time. So I just want to reiterate again to our viewers and listeners that the topic is the rise of building a remote career. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat, the Q&A box. And if you have any comments, please feel free to put them in the chat box. We like some interaction. We'd like to know you are there. We'd like to know that we are speaking to people who are finding this conversation highly valuable, like I am finding it myself. So I just want to turn again more to this gig economy. Tell us a little bit more, Benga, about this gig economy. What is the gig economy? I know you mentioned it, but you didn't go in depth. What is the gig economy in the first instance?
Okay, thank you very much. I had 15 minutes to present, so I had to ensure that I stick to time, because I'm always a respecter of time. Now, the gig economy says you can work for other people while you are your own boss. The gig economy is all about the freedom of the employees. Before now, the employers, there was more power concentrated on employers than employees. So the gig economy just give us, more like close to equal, not equal now, but close to equal power to employees. So I can be a Uber driver. I can just have my car. I'm the owner of my car. So I can choose when I want to work, even though I'm taking, I'm using, I can switch between Uber and Bolt. So I can, the freedom is now, instead of going to work, 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I can say, okay, I only want to take Uber rides from 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. every day. That's when I want to work. So even though Uber is not my company, but I'm a gig worker, meaning I'm leveraging on their technology, I'm leveraging on them, and there's a win-win relationship between both of us. So that's more like the idea of the gig economy. So also as a freelancer, as a remote worker, now, so say you're, as a freelancer, you are able to work for different clients. You are able to work for multiple clients at the same time. You are able to have different. Some of them have marketplace platforms, and they serve as middlemen where they link up clients with freelancers. So you're able to get short-term contract, long-term contract, and you're able to choose. Okay, I want to work on this project. I don't want to work on this project. That's what I talked about, the power of some of the freedom and power that has been given to employees. So that's what the gig economy is all about.
Thank you very much. So just a question to you again on this gig economy, because it's important that our viewers know that it is possible to actively participate in the gig economy despite some infrastructural challenges that we have in Nigeria, data, internet. So how do they position themselves to actually become active players and participants in the gig economy? Does it work?
Yes.
In Nigeria,
yes.
How can that actually reduce the high unemployment rate you mentioned earlier on?
Okay, so I would like to share my screen. I just want to show a particular screen I was able to So I'd like to share my screen just a page and talk about it, answering your question. So I believe we can all see my screen. So this is this screen now. This is a freelance platform landscape created by Pioneer. Pioneer is one of the platforms where people can. Pioneer is one of the platforms where people can, get paid. So to answer your question, how can a youth in Nigeria leverage this gig economy, even with the challenges? Now, some of the challenges of remote work, part of the part I didn't include is the Nigerian factor. So power, electricity, and data, internet. Those factors are very, 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 very important. They are very important, and we face the challenges. So I've had not so good experiences. I've had a student who lost a $60,000 job because of internet. She had prepared for the, after it was 5-step interview, she had prepared for the interview. On the final interview, her internet decided not to on, and she was just broken out. And she's been able to move on and get other, related even more than what she lost. But it's to say these things can happen, and so we need to prepare for it. One way I prepared for it is I had all the service provider as a MiFi. As my router, I had all the service provider you can name. I had about 6 of them. So if one decides to do what it can do, I switch to the other one. So that's one challenge, and it's unless if you can create a solution for that, or if the government can help, if the private companies can help. But pending that time that they are not helping, we need to just stick with that. Okay, this happened. We can find ways to bend around it. Now, another challenge is power. To charge your phone, to charge your PC, because these are the things you are using as a gig worker, as a remote worker. So you need to find alternative source of power. Currently, I use 3 sources of power. I use the normal NEPA, I use the generator, I use an inverter. So that's, and it's because I can afford that. So for someone who is coming in new, these are challenges he or she will face. Now, I wanted to answer to also say, the part where you said, how can they leverage the landscape or the economy? So look at this on my screen. If you look at this landscape, this was created by Pioneer's report on freelancers. And as I said, I like to read a lot of reports. I read reports. I've taken classes from World Economic Forum on freelancing, remote work, Pioneer, Upwork, and so when they create reports like this, I like to read it to understand where remote work is going, what we can do, and on like that. So now, I mentioned platforms. If you look at it, there are general platforms. There are a whole lot of them. So you can pick one of them, or you can pick 2, 3 of them. There are general platforms a young guy, a young girl can leverage. There are also platforms that are specific to niche: IT, graphic design, translation, web design, healthcare, academic, media, engineering, e-learning. So these are ways a young guy, a young girl can leverage. So you can leverage these platforms, learn how, so have the skills, learn the skills. If you don't have them, you can learn them for free. You can, you can learn them for free. You can learn them, you can use them you can use the platforms I listed to learn all these skills. So have the skills. Now, the moment you have the skills, then find a way to understand how to leverage, how to become a remote worker, how to build your journey. Then you're on your way to success. So that's how to go about it.
Thank you very much, Benga. Very helpful. The time is 12 minutes past 3, and we should be rounding up. But just to highlight some very important points that you mentioned, to effectively participate in this remote work, you need a skill. So go get a skill. You need a resume and a portfolio, and always deliver quality. And in terms of getting the skill, Benga also mentioned that there are various platforms that you can go learn a skill. And sometimes some of these skills will take you between 1 to 2 weeks, depending on what you want to learn. And there are platforms like Coursera, EDX, and so many others. So to tie this whole conversation up, I'd like to give our speakers a minute, let's say 2 minutes each, to give their final thoughts on the conversation today, which again, I would repeat, is building a remote career. So to Bubemi, who was supposed to be talking about acing virtual interview. Let's have your final thoughts on how to ace a virtual interview. Good with me? Over to you. Your final thoughts, please.
Thank you very much. Okay, so my final thoughts on acing virtual interviews. So like I said earlier on, one of the most important things that you need to remember is that the only difference between a virtual interview and a physical interview is that you're not in the same space. But all the normal rules of a physical interview apply. So most importantly, the same way you prepare for a physical interview is the same way that you prepare for a virtual interview. So you need to do your research about the company, find out what it is that they do. As much as possible, if you know what role you're being interviewed for, find out what that role does, find out how that role plugs into the company, find out how that role makes money for the company, because ultimately that's why that role is being hired. If you can, find out who would be on the interview panel, so you can do your research about them as well, or about the top management of the company. One thing I've discovered is that if you know ahead of time who's going to interview you, it bridges that surprise gap for you. So when you do end up meeting them, they may not know so much about you, but you know a bit more about them, and it makes you a bit more comfortable. As much as possible, also, you need to make sure that you also dress the part, look the part, comport yourself properly, speak clearly, look clearly into the eyes of people that are interviewing you. Sort out all your technology, utility issues ahead of time, your data, your laptop, your Bluetooth devices, power, which was one thing that he mentioned as well. If you know that power is erratic in your area, then you might need to maybe go to a co-working space for an hour or something to do the interview. And ultimately, just relax and be comfortable, and hope for the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Ruth, your final thoughts, please.
Oh, thank you so much. It's just, I'm copiously taking a lot of notes. It's almost like the session should not end, but of course it should. Anyways, I think my final thought, as it has to do with productivity, one of the things that Lubemi had mentioned in his first introduction was when we talk about virtual work like this, or the topic we are talking about, is we look at it from two lenses, from being self-employed and of course being an employee of an organization. Now the thing about moonlighting in the HR term or gig economy is that you can afford to do multiple things at the same time, right? I remember when I used to still go to office every single day. I spent nothing less than, then I go from Ikeja to Aja every day. I spent nothing less than 4 hours in traffic, 4 hours of wasted time. I don't do anything apart from just sit and mope. Of course, I do take public transportation, because I don't want our participant here to think that, oh, we all are speaking from some high lofty offices and all that. We also have interacted with some of the challenges like power. For example, right now, I don't have power in my house. I'm using a particular solar system right now. Right, I don't want to mention brands so that I'm not selling anybody, right? So I'm using a solar system right now. So one of the things is that you can do multiple things at the same time. You can have a 9 to 5, and of course, if you do have discipline, you can have a side hustle that you are doing. Trust me, I have a lot of side hustles that I do. It is from the fact that I can manage my workflow, I'm delivering on my targets, and I'm able to add on more responsibilities on my plate, of course, to make some money on the side. I think one of the very big issues as well of productivity working remotely is staying motivated. It is very difficult to stay motivated. One, if you are an employee of an organization, if you are really used to somebody breathing down on your neck or following up with you to say, hey, have you done this, have you done that? If you don't have that that person or that system that helps keep you in check, you have to keep yourself in check. Over and again, we have highlighted issues around you working alone, right? Nobody is having conversations with you. So that's tendency, because I experienced it even when I said that, oh, we are used to having this hybrid method. When we moved to a full remote working last year, I had a mental breakdown. I had to, one, do these things I'm talking to you about, build a routine. I'll go out. I take several breaks in between my work. I stand up, I go for a walk, I take several breaks. I listen to music. I'm telling you, I listen to music. In between work hours, I watch movies, right? I do, because now you need to, get a lot of energy in to do your work, right? Because you don't get that, physical interaction that, working at the office gives to you. So, top of productivity for you is to manage your mental health, because you cannot give what you do not have. If you are not okay upstairs, if you are not motivated, if you are not, again, if you're not okay in your mind, right, you cannot produce anything, right? So it's very important that you take care of your mental health and really just know yourself, understand yourself, and what makes you tick. I think so that we don't say too much, so that we can close up this conversation. Know yourself, focus on what you need to do. And to be honest, the sky is your limit, especially for young people who are listening to us today. The sky is your limit. Do not give excuses. Oh, I don't have data, I don't have internet, or I don't have a good place to work. You can, crush those, excuses if you actually apply yourself or really just show up.
Thank you very much, Ruth. We need a session with you on productivity and efficiency. So I think reach out to Ruth. I think we really need to have that conversation, to help young people be productive, how to also manage their mental health. Now, over to you, Benga, your last thoughts.
Thank you very much. It's been a fantastic time with everyone around here. So, two things. I like to say, after seeing Upwork's report, I shared on my social media, I talked about a lot on social media, and I said I was going to be starting every presentation with $2.3 billion. Any presentation I do on remote work, freelancing, I'll just first talk. The first statement will be $2.3 billion. Because if that amount can be paid, because at least I was part of the $2.3 billion last year, and I had a lot of students who got paid out of that, from $5 to I've had students who've been able to make $30,000, $40,000. Now convert this to Naira. Today, I did a mental cap today. I was just asking myself a random question, and I asked myself, how many of my students are able to be making $1 million every month to themselves? And I was able to count 11. I posted it on social media. Some of my students started sending me messages that me too, I make more than $1 million every month from my home. Now, this is the possibility. This is what is possible. Now, it's not easy. It's not going to come easy. It's not easy, but get these skills, understand these platforms, leverage the internet, and you too, you smile to the bank. You'll be able to leverage the remote work interface and be able to make more for yourself. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Benga. So we have come to an end of today's conversation on building a remote career. I'd like to thank our speakers for today, Buwemi Atimomo, Ruth David, and Benga Adebi, for that very insightful and interesting conversation. And if you're a young person there still doubting the future of work and remote work, I hope today that you will doubt no longer. At this juncture, I'd like to hand over to the KEC team and thank you everyone again for being a part of today's conversation. Over to you, Agogo. Thank you all.
Hello. Okay. The representative from the American corner will take over now for some announcements. Then I will come back to give some announcements about this session before we finally close for today's workshop. Stephanie, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Matedapo. So yes, thank you so much everyone to our lovely and fantastic and amazing panelists, keynote speakers, and everyone that has been a part of this interesting session today. My name is Stephanie Adesonia, and I'm the director for the American Corner hosted at CC Hub. And I had an introduction earlier where I talked about the American corner at CC Hub, and I said I was going to come back to just wrap up and give an overview of American spaces generally and what we do and what we're trying to achieve. And so one of the panelists in the first panel session, Mr. Ayo Adeyemi, mentioned, was talking about personal development and how it is very important, the place of personal development. And so I briefly wanted to share about American spaces in Nigeria. It's basically a network of spaces. So we have them located all over the country. The southern part, Calabar, Port Harcourt, Uyo, Enugu, and lots more. In the northern part, Kano, Kaduna, Maiduguri, Bauchi, Jos, and all of them. But we practically do the same things. Mission, our goal is to empower the Nigerian youths, is to educate the Nigerian youths, and is to engage the Nigerian youths. And we do this through various programs, various events, various activities, such as this one. We're super excited to have partnered with Knowledge Exchange Center and the Ministry of Wealth Creation and Employment to have this program to educate youths about remote work. What are the opportunities and what are the challenges? And we sincerely hope that everyone on the call, all the youths, all the people that joined the sessions today have taken one or two things that they would use ongoing in their pursuit of remote work or any kind of work whatsoever that they're looking for. So please feel free to connect with us on Facebook. I will put the link in the chat, pick up the link, or just go to the ng.usembassy.gov website. You can find all of the American spaces that we have across the country and just locate one closest to you. You can visit them. It's a library, it's a resource center. Trust me when I say we have lots of resources available to youths, young people to empower themselves, to educate themselves and to enlighten themselves. So please make sure you take advantage of them. Again, I want to say thank you for a successful first day of the workshop. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you so much and have a lovely one. Dakwa, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? You can hear me now, right? Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you. It's been an amazing experience. We promised you an amazing experience, but I myself never thought it was going to be this amazing. And it's been amazing. Coming from the first session where we were discussing about leading a remote team to the second session where we were talking about building a career remotely. These are amazing topics that tries to tackle the remote work, the challenges, the opportunities from different angles. First, we try to help organizations in trying to understand how remote work is. And now this session that we just finished was particularly focused on job seekers, how they can take the advantage and the opportunities that lies in remote work. Thank you, Bubemi Atimomo. Thank you, Ruth David. Thank you, Benga Adebi. And thank you to my Honorable Madam Maria Glover. In fact, she's always there for us. Thank you very much. So going to the announcement for the day, thank you to all our participants that stayed throughout with us for today's session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But today, the career workshop does not end today. It ends tomorrow. And like today, the amazing experience that we promised you continues tomorrow, whereby we'll be having the career counseling session. The career counseling session, like I said earlier, is going to help you navigate that career that you want. Come with your questions that is bothering you concerning your career, concerning your job search, concerning different things relating to your professional life, and that will be attended to. Also, tomorrow, we've been talking about building skills, building competencies that can help you take advantage of the remote work. So tomorrow, we have workshop for you on how to understand basics of Canva, digital marketing, job hunting, and these are the basics that you really need to take advantage of the remote work. So we understand this. That's why we designed that into this career workshop, to give you that level. And so I hope you take advantage of this. Same time tomorrow, 11 o'clock. The career workshop starts tomorrow, 11 o'clock tomorrow. So for all our participants, we will be sending you the feedback form. Check the chat section. The feedback form will be dropped into the chat section. For you to have access to the recordings, kindly fill the feedback form. Once you fill the feedback form, we'll send you the recordings for today's session, and tomorrow, once you fill the feedback form. Thank you, everyone, once again. With this, I'll be bringing to an end the Career Workshop, KEC Career Workshop 4.0 Day 1. Thank you very much. We wish to see you and continue this wonderful experience tomorrow. Thank you very much to all our speakers. The link for tomorrow's session 2 is being dropped into the chat session. So if you need access into tomorrow's session, kindly check the chat session, and the link is there too. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everyone. Hope you had an amazing experience with us. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
How to see love in everything. I forgot totally. My brother say he love me, I love him too. My man call me honey, I call him boo. But my neighbor no like me, I hate him too. A man call me stupid, I call him fool. 'Cause I forgot how to love the way you asked me to. Remind me how to love, to love. I forgot how to give those who are in need. So selfish of me. Even when it got too hard for me to care, I forgot how to try. My baby says she hungry, I give her food. I tell her I will do anything for you. But a stranger say, please, I no get you. I look am like this, say, who are you? 'Cause I forgot how to love the way you asked me to. Remind me how to love.